All right. Good morning. It is uh, early Sunday morning, May 16th, 2021, as I record this. But it'll be posted for the week starting May 17th. I haven't graded any papers yet. You still have a day to get everything in. Get your papers in today, and I'll grade midweek here coming up. Okay, so what we're going to cover today: big data and healthcare analytics, and just data and healthcare analytics. And a lot of the challenges are um, the criticality is pretty enormous in healthcare because it's life and death situation. But the challenges, even if you're not in healthcare, they apply to you because the challenges are not not unique. Um, but anyway, this is our overview. We'll talk about the week three discussion and a little bit of changing of the rules a little bit. Many of you, I would say more than half, most of you missed a point or two on your replies because they were just adding simple statements. They didn't really contribute to or extend the discussion. So I'm going to continue my quest to make those more worthwhile for all of you. And I'll show you that. And I also wanted to talk about um, your dissertations, which it's never too early to come up with a good idea. Do not wait until um, 8:39 to start thinking about your dissertation. And these three things: the problem, purpose, and problem, purpose statement, and research question form the basis of a dissertation, from which everything else grows. So you got to get those down first. Um, and of course, we will conclude. Okay, so healthcare analytics, as we have seen in the middle of a pandemic, we've seen a lot of healthcare analytics issues being brought out into public view, and a lot of research topics um, coming up in the last years, not just because of the pandemic, but in the last several years. So the baseline for healthcare analytics, um, it 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 can be unique surveys that are sent out, but a lot of it is EHR, electronic health records, which is the quest to turn our paper-based, um, antiquated approach to medical records into an actual database where your visits, your prescriptions, your tests, your diagnostic imagery, um, everything is put in a a more standard, more transferable form, um, where the it's born digital. The information is born digital. Nobody is writing notes on a piece of paper that go into a folder. Your practitioner is typing in things, so it reduces the chance of transcription errors. You still see some doctors talking into a microphone, and that gets transcribed. And it's anytime you move information like that in an analog fashion, you're going to have a chance of an error in translation. Um, but EHRs set up a more standard architecture so that you can move data, or at least um, display data, share data between practitioners and organizations. Um, and you can analyze that data because it's in a more standard format, as we know. Cleaning data is and assembling it and putting it into the same format from different sources is a big challenge. And then of course it allows information sharing between agencies, between practitioners and the insurance companies that pay the bills, and the government that regulates the insurance companies. And EHR is different from EMR, which is um, really just scanning and digitizing analog information without really making it a data source. But then we're also seeing an explosion in in real-time patient monitoring systems and the data they collect. 20, 30 years ago, when a patient was uh, plugged in at the hospital, it would monitor, O2 levels and breathing and respiration rate, blood pressure, heart rate, those sort of things. But it was really just to it would come out on paper, and it was really just to monitor you right now. But it's getting to be where we have those. We have wireless enabled, um, like trackers that go on your skin that can monitor um, like blood sugar, so that you can track diet track and diagnose diabetes. You've got um, real-time patient monitoring systems in the hospital while you're in the hospital. Now they're now generating data that can be analyzed throughout the length of your stay. Uh, um, uh, there's sleep study um, uh, equipment now that will check your your heart rate and your respiration and your motion at night to see if you have a sleeping condition. There's just a ton of information coming from these monitoring systems. I've got a family member with a pacemaker that stores data and has uh, an inductive pickup that you hold over the pacemaker, and it will download data and send that data to um, the the heart doctor. What do you call that? Cardio. What do you call a heart doctor? Anyway, sends it to her heart doctor. I'm not that kind of doctor. Um, so yeah, there's any number of these sensors and monitoring systems, and it all goes down into your EHR, and it's all stored as data. And then all of the diagnostic imagery is now data. Um, every time you get a CT scan or an MRI, that's creating megabytes of data that have to be stored and analyzed and managed, and so there are opportunities there, but there are challenges, which we'll get into the next slide. You've got concerns, privacy concerns, and HIPAA compliance. Um, I had a colleague who was in healthcare management. He was not a provider, but he worked in a healthcare system, and um, thought he was doing the right thing um, to help a patient with something, and he accessed patient data, and it was determined that it was not for actual healthcare. Um, and he was asked to resign so they would not have to fire him. And he worked at the hospital. So privacy is a huge issue within healthcare. And I know a couple of you guys work in that world, so you deal with it all the time. And then we've got ethical concerns about um, the use of healthcare data. Particularly, I've been watching a lot of information about CRISPR and genetic editing, and genetic testing. And I know that is data. Your DNA profile is now digitized, just like your fingerprint, your retina scan, all that stuff can be is now just a digital signature, a data item, data structure, um, and it can be used, to potentially to deny people healthcare or insurance. Or there's always been a concern that people that admit to having been a smoker would at some point be denied healthcare, um, for like lung cancer or COPD because they had admitted being a smoker. Same with alcohol use and liver problems. That so there's problems with ethical concerns um, with how this health information is used and who is using it, um, to include hiring decisions. Because if you've got pre-existing conditions and you're likely to need some sort of accommodation in the future, they might not want to hire you as much as they would someone who's perhaps more healthy and would need less help. So yeah, healthcare analytics, and along with um, the nature of the domain. I mean, data is data, right? A date is a date, a number is a number. So the data, an image is an image. The data can be, uh, you know, different. It's a different domain. There's different terminology associated with it, but I would say there's more in common, um, among these different domains, data domains, like manufacturing versus healthcare versus uh, social media, um, uh, finance, human resources. In all of these different functional areas, I think they've got a lot more in common than they do apart from each other, or that distinguishes them from each other. Okay. So the benefits and challenges of this is your discussion this week. Um, okay, so there are benefits and challenges of, and let me fast forward one slide. Uh, Pick one of the four concepts below. Let me double check that real quick and make sure that that is still accurate. In week 3, pick one of the four concepts. Yes. Every once in a while they tweak, they adjust the instructions just a little bit. But yeah, we're going to pick one of these. Okay. So there are benefits to data gathering, right? So if you choose data gathering, what are the benefits of data gathering? Um, you get more statistical significance if you can pull data from a wider population, get that sample size up to something that will pass muster to a statistician. Um, it's more accurate. It's more widely applicable. Um, but what is the challenge of gathering that data? And you can use a healthcare scenario, but don't limit your references for this assignment to healthcare, because like I said, all data science efforts um, face these four areas. Every you know, and you could analyze these four things differently as you look at a particular area, whether it's healthcare or human resources or manufacturing or social media or e-commerce or whatever. So, but for healthcare, we got data gathering. The challenges of data gathering, um, we would see is the lack of compatibility among the systems. But this is where you will report what you're hearing, what you're reading in an academic reference or two. You don't need to make this stuff up. I mean, you can just do a normal Google search and kind of get up on the topic and then find academic references that are related to that topic. But what are the challenges of data gathering? You got compatibility issues, you got privacy issues. So this is the act of assembling the data. Data. You've got data types and formats and potentially languages. I mean, if you're talking something global like the pandemic, you're going to have different languages. You're even going to have different alphabets to deal with. So yeah, gathering that data um, can be tough. Um, but compatibility, that really might be more integration. So depending on how you want to handle that, storage and integration. Storage could be a matter of size, but it could be security, um, um, and the security of that data, and then yeah, integrating. That's probably where you would look at something like data formats a little bit more, um, but not necessarily so much the privacy. And then okay, moving down here to data analysis. We are always updating our tool set to perform data analysis. What are the benefits of these storage and integration and data analysis, um, as well as the challenges? So if you choose one of these, you should have two sections: a benefits section and a challenges section. So data analysis, of course, the benefits are you're deriving meaning, right? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Um, but maybe something more specific. If you could find a data analysis success story where perhaps they found a linkage between um, things, and that came through a particular tool of data analysis, that would be good. And the challenges, of course, are sometimes it's um, the the tools, the data sets can be huge, so you've got to run into things like what Hadoop and Spark and Hive, right? There's a ever evolving approach to these big data sets, and then at the highest level, knowledge discovery and information interpretation of the results. You know, what we've seen, particularly in the pandemic, is interpreting information. We saw conflicting information about social distancing and indoors and outdoors, and dining should be closed or not, and mask wearing and whatnot. And so for any healthcare data analysis, this is the the final test. That's why you're doing it. So if you don't, I mean, the benefits of that are publishing reliable healthcare information out to the public and saving lives, and informing financial decisions like whether or not to spend billions of dollars on a vaccine versus therapeutic drugs, say. Um, so anyway, yeah, knowledge discovery and information interpretation. That's where you get into cause and effect, causality, like the pause that we saw on the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, because after 6.8 million inoculations, we saw 6 or 7 women, females of childbearing age got blood clots. So 1 in 1 million, which is uh, something to take notice of. But how do you interpret that information? 1 in 1 million. And, you know, what other factors came into play? And that's where that knowledge discovery in healthcare, they're looking at, okay, well, you got a blood clot, but what else? Or what other drugs are you on? What other conditions um, uh, what other conditions do you deal with as far as like diabetes or heart disease or um, hemophilia, anything? Um, and then um, what other circumstances happened between your inoculation and the blood clot? Was there some other thing in common? Did they all take some over-the-counter medication afterward? You don't know. You got to look at all of those factors, and that's the challenge. But the benefits are, again, right? Reasonable, um, executable decisions and guidance to the public. Okay, so yeah, healthcare analytics. It's analyzing data to help the individual person. Um, so you can look at their health history and drug interactions and tests, and we're starting to use decision support systems and expert systems to make diagnosis for individual people. So you've got that world, looking at data in order to help an individual person is one form of data analytics. But then, sort of the opposite, the flip side of the coin is using aggregate data from all of us in order to help all of us and make um, more broadly generalized conclusions about healthcare. And it's treatment, it's cost, it's prevention. Just a huge, huge, huge world. So yeah, coming up on the discussion. Okay, so here are your 4 areas, and remember to put a header. Please use a header for the challenges and a header for the benefits. And uh, please, you don't just use the. Most of you are doing pretty good at going out to Google Scholar or the library and finding additional resources. Don't just rely on the tiny bit of information you're given in the classroom. Okay, but here is something I am going to highlight. Um, let's see what else I can do here. Can I make it flash and I'll bold it. Okay. Um, Many of you, I put approaches expectations for your replies, because when you hit reply, you just repeated basic stuff about this 3F method. Um, and and when you do that, no one replies to your reply, which means it was pointless. You didn't really contribute anything. You didn't add anything. No new knowledge. No new nothing. So a good way to add new knowledge is to offer your thoughts, offer your experience, ask questions. If somebody posts something in their original reply that gets your brain thinking, talk to them, converse with them, ask them where they learned that, or if they make a statement and they didn't support it with a reference, and it sounds goofy, and there were plenty of things that were a little bit goofy that you could have replied to and asked clarification. So yeah, even if you don't say add a few points, but all you do is just reply and yeah, the 3F method has 3 steps. We know that. We read the article. Okay. So I did say approaches just expectations for the week 1 discussion. But I'm not giving credit for that anymore. Um, you're you're welcome to shoot me an email. But the discussions, you guys need to be learning from each other and learning to dialogue, learning to not just fill a square, for discussion. There, I posted something. Are you happy? And you will see in the instructions that I eliminated posts like that as an option. You'll see no longer an option, not an option anymore, um, to just reply and repeat something from your main article and if you did learn something interesting, share the source. Tell the person in English in conversational tone. Hey, good post. I was reading that same article and I decided not to use it because I didn't think it was so good. Or I used that article too. I really thought the methodology that they used in their study was good, or whatever the case may be. Um, but I want to see actual, for real discussion as if you are at work and discussing a professional topic. Okay. Don't just tell somebody some basic stuff. It's insulting. You understand that? It's insulting when you reply and tell somebody something basic that they probably already know. And think about it, you know what I mean? If everybody's done some research this week, we don't need to be told healthcare analytics is a growing field. We know that. You know what I mean? Don't bother to reply and add and say things like that. The obvious. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your fellow students' time. Don't waste my time with you know those sorts of posts. Okay, enough about that. So, I wanted to begin the discussion about your dissertation. Um, the What your dissertation is. It's a final actual research project that you will conduct. You will uh, collect new data or analyze existing data in some unique way. You will defend your approach to that research, otherwise known as your methodology. You will defend your analysis of your data and invite repeatability of the research project. So that's what a dissertation is: a strictly formatted um, report. And you will see academic articles and dissertations all they follow a very similar format if they are in fact research articles. There's a lot of just informative articles out there that are almost like a chapter of a textbook, but they aren't. They didn't do research. They didn't conduct new original research. Okay. Um, the format is in chapters. Chapter 1 is the overall introduction, which tells a little bit about everything about your problem area, why you're doing your research, the research question that you're addressing, the way you gathered your data, where you gathered your data from, how you analyzed your data, and your overall findings. Um, and you will see research articles. They don't necessarily have a chapter like you do in a dissertation. Chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sometimes 6. Um, but the article sections will be very similar to that again if they are original research projects. Um, you will defend this scary thing called a literature gap, a gap in the body of knowledge. And you do that by telling a story um, of other research projects that left certain things unanswered. And very often, in fact, it's kind of mandatory among academia to recommend future research projects that enhance or extend a given research project. And you will write a section of that um, in your dissertation, recommended future research. So you recommend to anybody reading it how they could take what you learned and do more. And I've posted my dissertation, and so you can see how I went about these things. And my dissertation is not technical; it's not complex. Um, you should read it so that you and I will have a common piece of experience, so that we can discuss in terms of. And the other thing to watch out for when you are um, thinking about your dissertation is it is very narrowly focused. Um, some people are worried that while they are working on their dissertation, someone else will um, will think of their idea and execute their project. And as you go along, you'll see. I had a similar concern. But as you're out there becoming more and more and more and more familiar with your research area and the journal articles that are published, you'll see that you're probably attacking something that's fairly narrow, really narrow, and the chances of somebody doing exactly what you are proposing for your dissertation is is virtually non-existent. So I wouldn't. There are other concerns to have other than that one, and it is an original research project. Now, the word research gets used a lot, and it can be a little ambiguous. Um, there are uh, research papers, right? That you're writing a research paper, um, but that's little r research. That's your personal research into a topic. That's really just learning. Um, I wish there was another word to use because you're not really writing a research paper. A research paper reports the results of a research project, which actually goes out and collects data and tests a hypothesis or explores something new using qualitative inquiry. That's a research paper, really. Um, so you need to realize that uh, there's original research, and that is where yes, you propose that something is a problem area, um, and you are going to shed light on that problem area. Some people think that an original that research is only the research that is conducted when we talk about research and development, as far as like finding a new algorithm for a software engineer, or for some people, maybe proposing a new framework like DevOps or Agile or Waterfall for the SDLC. There are a lot of proposed frameworks and methodologies out there, just like the 3F method. That thing wasn't validated. There's no data that says that 3F method drove decisions by a country and it increased their ability to address the big data challenge, right? There's nothing there. That was a proposed methodology, a proposed framework. Um, but it didn't actually collect any research data, right? So you need to know how to differentiate between journal articles when you're reading them. Um, a dissertation uh, will be really helpful for you. They're not always the best reference for your own dissertation because they were written by someone very, very new to the field. So they're not, the author won't have as much standing as a recognized expert in the field. But you should download them and you should read them and get familiar with the wording and the structure and what it takes to get there. Um, I have uh, I have uploaded mine to the classroom, and I've uploaded the slides to the classroom. These slides, and some folks don't know where the notes area is. Speaker notes on a slide, but look at what see how I'm dragging that around, and in these speaker notes area, I include links, um, references for you to read. So you should download these slides and definitely when you get a chance, take a look at some of these things so that you got an idea what's coming. Okay, so that's what your dissertation will be, and a little bit about what I learned going through that project, going through um, that phase of my doctoral program. Um, but the baseline, the foundation of a dissertation um, is formed by two statements and a question, really. Um, the first is a problem. And in virtually every week in ITS 836, you will see my boss, Dr. Brown, our department chair, posting videos and links that repeat and enhance um, what all I'm talking about. So make sure you're reading all of those, or watching them. And here again are more links. Um, Choosing a problem area, and the best advice I got, and I would pass on to you, is to choose an area that you have practitioner knowledge. You have knowledge of as a practitioner. Um, like for me, I started seeing as a software engineer toward the end of my military career, I started seeing this phenomenon where data would be stuck in an old application and you had to maintain that application, even though you started doing business with a newer one. You would have to maintain the old application just to maintain access to the data because it was so expensive to move it over, or it was so complex that it couldn't be moved over effectively. Um, and so you wind up with uh, a a dead end legacy system that you've got to maintain the licensing and sometimes there will be problems with the data and people got to go back in and correct something, if some person, particularly if it involves your information, like a government agency moving from one system to the next. So I saw this phenomenon and I thought that that would be a good problem area to look into as a dissertation. What causes that? What factors in the system's development uh, um, life cycle contributed to this vendor lock or data immobility or whatever, and there hadn't been enough work done on it. I couldn't find enough to springboard from because you've got to justify your problem area um, using the literature. You can't just say something is a problem because you're not a recognized expert. You don't have standing, and that annoyed me when I was a when I was a highly qualified doctoral student. But it is true. Um, you've got to substantiate your problem in the literature. So yeah, you'll go through this. I wound up switching over from that to what I saw as a problem with employee turnover and the way information was managed in the enterprise information systems. Some systems are really good at capturing that data, that information for the next generation of knowledge workers. Um, and some systems are not. Like email and unstructured shared drives are horrible at passing on information to the next generation of employees as you experience turnover, which I wrote mine from a military standpoint. Um, you do see that a lot of turnover. It's intentional as part of career progression. So anyway, that wound up being my problem area is that when somebody leaves and you delete their email account and the only the only source of information that you have is their email account, you lose information. So a relatively simple thing that I had to justify using interviews and justify the problem using the literature. So yeah, check out my dissertation. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so that's a problem area, but then you actually have to answer a research question. And if you start downloading dissertations, you will see that they have either one or a very short list of of research questions that you then answer. The research question focuses the research so that you are not just trying to solve world hunger and writing about a topic. You're not just writing about something. You're actually answering a question. What is the, impact on something of, or like if for these clinical trials, what is the clinical efficacy of the vaccine? Um, and you've got your placebo group and you've got your treatment group, and you look at the difference in whether it's a drug trial or the vaccine, or do you look at the difference between those two groups, and you look for cause and effect of some particular drug or vaccine. But you can also do something that is a little more qualitative, and I'll give you my 2 cents on the difference between qualitative and quantitative research um, in a future week of methodology, talking about methodology. Because your research question determines the methodology. You could say something very exploratory, almost like social sciences, by exploring the acceptability of cryptocurrency um, within corporations or people or a particular population. Maybe it's you want to explore why older people have nothing to do with Bitcoin versus younger people. So your research question can be phrased so that it looks at the problem and it also adjusts the population. Like I could do a research question. I work in the world of IT training, really. In addition to these education, higher ed classes I teach, my main job is in IT training, particularly in apprenticeships. Um, and I could limit a study to the effectiveness of apprenticeships in Arkansas. What is the effectiveness of IT apprenticeships in the state of Arkansas? So that could be my research question, and it would narrow or focus the research to a given geographic area, and as far as apprenticeships go, to a particular industry. And it can't be yes or no. So if I ask you for a sample research question or an idea for a research question, and you come back and you say, okay, my example research question is there, uh, you know, is there a link between big data and healthcare? Or that's a yes or no. You really don't want to go at a research question like that, um, because it'd be a very short research project. So it needs to be something where you can develop either a hypothesis to accept or reject, and it's like more like what is the impact, not is there an impact. Don't think in terms of a yes or no or binary. And your research question has to feed back to your problem area and shed light on that problem. But here are, if I have confused you or you'd like to read some more, here are some more research question examples and thoughts down here in the speaker notes. And then the purpose statement is the purpose of the research. The purpose of the research could be to provide data to decision makers. It could be to test against the theoretical. It doesn't like lens with an E at the end. Lens. Ah, there you go. There's no E at the end of lens. Test against a theoretical lens. The purpose of your research could be to develop a new theory. If it's there's a methodology called grounded theory research, where you are um, collecting data that might lead towards a theory that needs to be tested and validated. Um, so that's the purpose of the research. It's not the problem. It's not the research question. It's the end goal of your research project. And you can read mine to get more information. And then we have links, of course, in the speaker notes. So yeah, there you go. So there's your food for thought for the discussion this week, and special instructions. Please don't lecture each other. I may start. You probably saw me comment. Yes, we've all read the article, um, and saying something condescending like that. Um, this week, I'll probably just say, please don't lecture your classmates, um, and I'll just keep doing it until you start paying attention and listening to me. There were also some responses that you all should have jumped on, including somebody basically rewording their classmates' post in the same thread, and none of you jumped on it. None of you commented on that, and that's wrong. You guys should be um, holding each other accountable, and it's disappointing when I see that you're not. And then there was a couple of them that if it sounds perfect, uh, maybe cut a few sentences into Google and see what you find. I found several folks uh, cutting and pasting from the internet, which you need to understand, folks. I find that disgusting. Okay, um, I don't know where. um, that became okay, or how that became okay, but it's not. I'm not going to have anything to do with someone calling you doctor because you can cut and paste from the internet. Uh, just ain't happening. Okay. So yeah, here's your our course on Course Hero, and um, in fact, I found one of my previous students uploaded one of his papers for my class. My name is on that paper that he turned in, and somebody else might use it, and you don't know. I might have failed that person. Just because it's on Course Hero doesn't mean it's a good paper, but people, you're still doing it. So I would ask, if you are cheating, please stop. Okay. In conclusion, yeah, as we all know, big data is exploding in healthcare, and there are challenges and benefits. And you will pick one of those four and explore the challenges and benefits. Again, you don't have to limit your articles to the healthcare vertical, to the healthcare functional area. Um, there are examples in the academic literature of challenges and benefits in those four areas that are more general, and it's okay to use those. Just put it in context in your discussion. Um, I can see some of you are not starting with an outline and writing every word originally. Right, every word originally, not no cutting and pasting ever, never, ever, never, never. It's never a good idea to cut and paste someone else's words into your document, but it's happening. And please increase the quality of your discussion replies. If you got a great job, thank you, then keep it up and maybe make it even more conversational. If you got my template, um, you know, please do not lecture your classmate. I use that comment a lot. Um, please stop replying to your fellow student with a short lecture um, and invite conversation. Type something to them that they might respond back to as if you were having a real conversation in real life about a professional topic. Okay. Well, that's all I got for you this week. I will see you all in class discussion.